Welcome to Shelf Help, a channel dedicated to talking to the void about whatever book I happen to be reading. I am your host, the reader. The following review will contain spoilers. Gwen is normal. She goes to school, hangs out with friends, goes to the movies, talks to ghosts. Normal. Her extended family is less so. Her great aunt has visions and her cousin might be a time traveler. That is really all you need to know exactly how this plot is going to go. So you remember when I said in Crown of Feathers that I have a love-hate relationship with YA fantasy? This is the flip side of that coin. This book is unimaginative, generic, predictable. The plot is enabled only by the entire cast playing with the idiot ball. Gwen is the normal girl in her family, where everyone else's hair is red and curly, hers is brown and straight. While her cousin Charlotte studies fencing and horseback riding, she goes to the movies. Charlotte is destined to be a time traveler for a secret society. Gwen's not destined for anything in particular. Charlotte is beautiful and graceful and smart and talented and kind of a bitch. Gwen is kind, surrounded by friends, and of course, clumsy. Granted, her only act of clumsiness is in the opening, and never shows up again, because clumsy is charming, apparently. Charlotte is a magic gene carrier based on her date of birth. That's not how genes work, but let's put a pin in that for a moment. This calculation was made by Isaac Newton, among others, in a Freemasons-style secret society. Gwen was born on the same day, but her mother had her birth date changed on the certificate because she didn't want Gwen to have the magic gene. And this is what I mean by the entire cast playing with the idiot ball. This gene, God, I hate calling it that, isn't just time travel. It also comes with a secondary power. Everyone knows this. It's in their prediction. It's in their prophecy. The other time traveler is a telepath. Charlotte exhibits no secondary power. Gwen sees ghosts, talks to ghosts, has done so her whole life. She is well beyond the age of having imaginary friends, and she isn't subtle about any of this. Her mother, her grandmother, her aunt are all aware of this. But nope, the gene carrier is definitely Charlotte. Because math. Her mother is definitely the worst offender here. She knows when Gwen was born. She knows Gwen can see and speak to ghosts. But she is so determined that her daughter not have the magic powers, she leaves her completely unprepared for the glaringly obvious outcome. There's no logical reason behind this, except to ensure that Gwen is unprepared and out of her depth, so that she can rise to the challenge. The aunt and grandmother are only better because they don't know that Gwen was born on the day of destiny. Gwen herself is as bad as her mother in this respect. She may not know her mother changed her birth certificate, but she knows about the magic gene, and that it is preceded by dizziness, and that talking to ghosts is not normal. But no, she travels back in time 3 times before she mentioned it to anyone but her best friend. If your plot depends on everyone being stupid, it's a bad plot. Back to that magic gene. If you want to use magic, by all means, use magic. You can get away with anything so long as it's consistent unto itself. Once you bring in science, you need to know what you're talking about, and the meanings of the terms you use. Especially if you want to toss in a secret society comprising the world's greatest scientists, past and present. Throughout the story, Charlotte and then Gwen are referred to as gene carriers. A gene carrier is actually a specific scientific term, and the book is using it wrong. Let's do a little high school level genetics. Genes are either dominant or recessive. Half your genes come from your mother, and half your genes come from your father, which is vastly oversimplifying things. Some genes, like eye color, have multiple dominant and recessives that are hierarchical. Genes like for melanin are more of a sliding scale. But for the sake of not overcomplicating the example, we'll say the time travel gene is a simple single dominant recessive trait. A dominant trait will always be expressed. An interesting example is actually 6 fingers in humans. It's a dominant trait, but so rare it's almost never exhibited. In order to express a recessive trait, the person needs to have a double recessive, or no dominant gene present. That would be the 5 fingers. This brings us to Punnett squares. They are a visual representation of genetic predictions. In this example, most people are double dominant for not time traveling. They would always produce children who are also double dominant for not time traveling. If a time traveler and a not time traveler had a child, all of their possible children would be dominant recessive for time traveling. These are the gene carriers, meaning they have a gene but do not express it. The only way a person can be born with this fictional gene would be either by 2 carriers having a child, giving them a 1 in 4 chance, a carrier and a time traveler, giving them a 1 in 2 chance, or, as in Gwen's case, 2 time travelers, giving them a 100% chance that the child would also be a time traveler. And that's not giving anything away. It's in the prologue. Also, don't give away your surprise twist ending in the prologue. I'm not even going to go into speculate how Isaac Newton, a man who died over a century before anyone knew genes even existed, predicted when these time travelers would be born. Honestly, just use magic. You can get away with a lot by just using magic. Or, at the bare minimum, get your terms right. There really isn't much else to say. This is a cookie-cutter story. Girl who is different and sees herself as less attractive. Oh, but wait, she's special and she's pretty too. And that arrogant guy she started out hating, turns out he's not so bad. In fact, it's love. Gag. I'm going to put this on my 4th shelf. A woman with the ability to travel through time could be very interesting. Imagine a woman from today dropping into a time where women were still property of her father or her husband, trying to navigate society without changing it. Instead, we just got another teen romance. Thank you for your time. I know everyone's mileage will vary. Please feel free to leave your thoughts.